Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Thursday, January 18th, 2024. This is live stream 1009. If you're not overly familiar with this show, now I'll explain. Super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then usually I'll chat a little bit about something going on in the hobby. So, pretty laid back, just having some fun. Now, I do want to mention that when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com because you will find loads of tabletop gaming news, reviews, comic info, and plenty else that you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you happen to be a subscriber to the channel and have been for at least 48 hours, you can take part in chat. So, if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in and I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman from the Motor City area. I wonder if the Madman is slated to get a bunch of lake effect snow tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to get hit with some snow in the Chicago area, and I noticed that not too far from where I used to live in Indiana, right next to South Bend, is slated for something like 20 inches of lake effect snow. It's like, yowza. So hopefully that's not heading Detroit's way. I don't know how much lake effect snow Detroit would actually get. I guess maybe depending on the wind patterns. Anyway, so let's see who else is in chat. Gruesome Gaming Group, Tesco Love, and Kathy Evans are also hanging out with us tonight. The Madman says not much snow, maybe 1 to 3 inches. Now they're predicting about 1 to 4 in the Chicago area. Now out here in Yorkville, I don't know if we're looking at 1 inch, 4 inches or what. I kind of get the feeling it's going to be a little bit further north than where I'm located. Fingers crossed, because I'm tired of shoveling it, and it's not like we've gotten that much snow. So there is that. Anyway, let's jump on into the news because I've got quite a bit cooking and I've got an eclectic mix as usual. Now available from Mighty Boards is Art Society, and I've got the deets. Art Society is a brand new art collection game with easy to learn rules for 2 to 4 players. In Art Society, you are an art connoisseur trying to impress your peers by putting together the most fashionable art collection of them all. Bid on the hottest works of art, then arrange them on your drawing room wall into a tastefully curated gallery that's the envy of the local art scene. But beware, fashion is fleeting, and trends are difficult to predict. The paintings that you and your fellow collectors do not buy will eventually make their way to the museum, changing the worth of your collection. In the end, whose wall will be the talk of the town? Art Society is for, once again, 2 to 4 players. It's for ages 10 and up, plays in around 30 minutes per player, and it does carry an MSRP of $40. Well. I gotta say, this looks kind of interesting. It looks like there's kind of a take on famous artwork and then some kind of oddball stuff tossed in there as well. So that's kind of interesting because I do notice they have something that's kind of a take on, I think the title of the piece is Girl with the Pearl Earring or something along those lines. They made a movie about it back in the day. So I thought that kind of looked interesting too. Very nice, very nice. So this is making its way into stores right now from Mighty Boards. So let's see, Agile Monk and Mike Berticelli, I think that's how it's pronounced, maybe. Taking a shot, taking a wild shot in the dark. And I see Kabuki Kid is with us. Flaming Huron has arrived. So we've got 2 of our chat moderators. I would not be surprised if our 3rd chat moderator, Sarah D, is lurking in the shadows, along with Lamont Cranston. On to the next news piece. Making its way into stores for Phalanx Games is Keep 'em Rolling, Race for the Rhine. Here's what I know. Keep your army supplied and liberate German-occupied Europe. Assume the role of a legendary Allied commander of World War II. Keep the logistics chain working. Advance your armies toward the Rhine and strike at the heart of Nazi Germany. Outshine and outpace other Allied generals and change history by winning the war in 1944, before Christmas. Keep 'em Rolling, Race to the Rhine features Race to the Rhine, a unique logistics-focused Euro-style war game for 1 to 4 players, which actually also includes a solitaire mode as well as optional cards and rules. There's also a standalone solitaire game. These are my credentials, covering the Allied liberation of Brittany. As one of the historic Allied commanders, you control several corps that you must move along predefined point-to-point routes, liberating cities from Axis control as you do. Unlike many other war games covering the liberation of Western Europe, in Race to the Rhine, the focus is on planning and logistics. Moving your corps requires fuel. Defeating Axis units and garrisons en route requires ammo. Feeding your armies as they move forward requires, obviously enough, food. The slower you are in moving to the Rhine, the longer you give the Axis to form a strong defense. But move too quickly, and you risk overwhelming your logistical capacity to supply your advance. Whichever commander can best manage these dual challenges will win the game. Keep 'em Rolling, Race for the Rhine is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up. Plays in around 90 minutes, does carry an MSRP of $89.95. Yes! Phalanx Games, and I do not believe that this is actually being released through Ares Games. I think Phalanx, I don't know if they've completely broken away from Ares Games, because in the past, Ares always released Phalanx Games here in the US. I haven't seen that as of late. I have seen it essentially being distributed through distributors from Phalanx itself. This could be very, very interesting. I do believe there is another Keep 'em Rolling game that came out a while back few years ago. And for some reason, I think it was the Drive on Moscow. Maybe. I don't know. For some reason, that's what I think it was. But I have heard Tom Vassell really likes this game. Reviewers out there have been very, very positive from what I've seen. So I thought, hey, it's not a Wednesday. It's not a War Game Wednesday, but I figured I'd share this with you nonetheless. Coco B is with us in chat. Agile Monk just made a super chat donation of $9.99. Thank you very kindly. Always recommend not to use that, though. I mean, I certainly do appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, Agile Monk. It's just YouTube takes like half of it. Whereas if you utilize the paypal.me/the gaming gang, which Agile Monk just recently has as well, they only take, I think, 2.5% as a, kind of transaction fee, what have you. Anyway, let's see. So who else? Roger Perdome is in chat with us. I think I've said hello to everybody so far. Who was it who just caught on to the shadow? There we go. W Forge. Only the shadow knows. Yes. Yes. The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. The shadow knows. What evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. Sarah D says they have to prove that she exists so that people don't think that I am imagining her. Yes, yet another imaginary friend of mine. Just add Sarah D to the list. So let's talk about some role-playing game news. Because now available in print is the Highlander cinematic adventure for everyday heroes. I've got the latest from Evil Genius Games. Jump into the world of the Highlander to live your immortal life throughout the ages. Engage in epic duels. Find your footing as one who lives for centuries among mere mortals and solve mysteries that have haunted you for all time. In the world of Highlander, you can play characters as old as recorded history or as fresh as their recent death in modern times. From feudal peasant, monk, or trader to Aztec warrior, Japanese samurai, or any other type of historical figure you find appealing. And of course, the Highlands Clansman is an option as well, so you can officially become a member of the Clan MacLeod. Highlights of the Highlander cinematic adventure include a wealth of lore about the world of the film, new tools and guidance for game masters, new classes such as the Brutal Warrior, Graceful Warrior, and the Strategist, new backgrounds such as Aztec Warrior, new professions such as Medieval Executioner. That is an interesting profession to toss out there in a role-playing game. New rules and mechanics for one-on-one duels. And there's also an adventure called A Measure of Revenge. Highlander is a tabletop role-playing game cinematic adventure that is 5e compatible, officially licensed, and set in the world of the film, and of course designed for use with the Everyday Heroes role-playing game. You do need the Everyday Heroes core rulebook to be able to understand and play the contents of this book. The 128-page softcover with PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone for $19.99. So, of course, in this situation, I would certainly recommend simply pick up the physical book for $5 more. Get the PDF as well. So why not have the physical book and the PDF for $24.99 as opposed to paying essentially $20 for just the PDF. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I have some Everyday Heroes reviews on the horizon. I'm kind of thinking what I might do is have an Everyday Heroes week once again. Of course, this time it would not be on the Gaming Gang Dispatch because we no longer do the first looks on the show, but have a new video every day. So there would be 5 videos for Everyday Heroes Week, including my review of the core rulebook. So I think I might roll that out the week after next, because next week, if you've missed any of the episodes this week, you don't know, but I will tell you, next week is Chaosium Inc. week. And you'll get to take first looks at 9. That's right, count them, 9 Chaosium releases, which had kind of flown under my radar, which I had not brought to you over the past, say, 3 years. So that'll be a lot of fun. So you want to stay tuned for that. Kabuki Kid says they liked the Highlander TV show. You just had to accept that it was like an alternate history of the story of the Immortals. I gotta say, a buddy of mine back in the day, Tony Manchin, who was actually part of the gang for just a wee little bit, he was a massive fan of the Highlander TV show. He had the whole series on VHS. He had bought the box set, and he kind of turned me onto it. And because I liked Highlander, I thought Highlander was a really cool movie. I can't remember exactly who turned me onto it. I remember it was somebody I knew. We were hanging out at their house, and we're probably talking, I don't know, 88, 89. And they said, hey, you ever see Highlander? And I said, no. I'm like, what is that? They're like, oh, man, you'll love it. And I was like, man, this is really good. I mean, it's a cult classic. It's not necessarily, fantastic cinema or anything like that, but it is a good movie. Of course, W. Forge asks, do we count Highlander 2: The Quickening as canon? I saw that once, and I know I was not the only one who could not make heads or tails out of that movie, because I guess just the editing just got way out of control. It was like, okay. Kabuki Kid says, I loved Adrian Paul. My buddy Tony actually had long black hair in a ponytail, just like Adrian Paul. When I say he was a big fan of the TV show, I mean he was a big fan of that TV show. No doubt about it. All right, we are going to get right back into the tabletop gaming news of the day in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's coming. Here it comes. It's intermission time. Time to visit our concession stand.
If going to a movie show is right for you, if candy eating and popcorn chewing's right for you, if what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's not too heavy, not too sweet, it's right for you. RC Cola. RC's just an easy going, right for you. RC Cola. If what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's right for you. It's right for you.
Now, from Milton Bradley, it's
You take a card and put it in a rack. If you don't want it, put it back. Very first player to make a run says, what fun!
That's Racco, Milton Bradley's great card game for 2, 3, or 4 players of any age. Get
What fun!
And here's another great fun game from Milton Bradley.
Easy money, easy money. You buy some land and houses too. You make it rich from the rent, or you'll be flat broke when the mortgage is due. Either way, it's fun when you play. Easy money, easy money.
Easy Money and Racco. 2 good reasons that
Milton Bradley makes the best games in the world.
Get Racco!
And easy money from MB.
Let's go up to the surface for some Wilkins coffee.
I'll never touch the stuff.
You should. It's a whale of a coffee.
Beechnut has a new gum, Beechnut Fancy Fruit. Fancy that. Beechnut has a new gum, Beechnut Fancy Fruit.
Fancy that.
Beechnut has a new gum, Beechnut Fancy Fruit. Fancy that. Fancy Fruit hangs on to flavor. What flavor? Fancy flavor.
Fancy what?
Fancy Fruit by Beechnut. What nut?
By Beechnut.
By gum.
I am certainly hoping no one out there is currently taking mescaline, because that last commercial would have probably sent you on a pretty bad trip. Yes. Kabuki Kid says they walked out of Highlander 2 genuinely mad. I think I saw Highlander 2 on tape. I don't believe I went and saw that at a theater. W. Forge says they loved RC Cola. They can't get Royal Crown Cola in their neighborhood. Diet Right is RC. It's just diet. And strangely enough, you used to be able to get it at Walmart, and now it's real hit or miss. Every once in a while, they'll actually have the Diet Right. They almost always have RC Cola. In fact, all the stores, like grocery stores and things like that out in my area, all carry RC. Not so much Diet Right. So Tessie Trekkie says they're always taking tequila. Kabuki Kid says, yeah, Jeff, you find the best ads. I just throw stuff at you that I think is kind of bizarre, off the wall, kind of a throwback to when I was a kid, or even right before I came around, because yes, I was not around in like the mid-60s. My birthday is in 67. Sarah D says, if I remember right, Milton Bradley rejected Monopoly, then regretted it when it became successful. So Easy Money was their attempt to get that success. See, what it should be a game about Rodney Dangerfield as a children's photographer. Oh, those are the bunny's carrots. I still think classic. If you have seen Easy Money, it's the classic scene where they get stoned and Dangerfield and his buddy go looking for someplace to eat, and every place they go to is closed, and they pull up to one place and there's a pole. It's kind of blocking part of the neon sign, and it says open, and then you see the 2, and as they pull up, the lights all go out, and then they show the sign says open 23 hours. And then there's another place they go to that says closed, go to Pops, and they go to Pops, And it says, Pops is dead. Go to wherever. W4 says, I love the Billy Joel song. Easy. Easy money. Easy money. I haven't seen that movie. Now that's a movie I did see in the theater. And I think that was the only time I ever saw it. And if I remember right, wasn't Joe Pesci his friend? Or some actor who was kind of like Joe Pesci was his pal. All right, let's get back into the tabletop gaming news because Cubicle 7 Entertainment has begun taking pre-orders for the Eldari Inheritance of Embers source book for Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory. Here's the scoop. Like their shattered war god, Kayla Mensha Kane, the ancient Eldari are a sundered people, heirs to a galaxy-wide empire that succumbed to ruination. All Eldari fear the grip of she who thirsts. Each has been forced to find their own way to deal with his looming horror. Some have chosen to walk a narrow path of focus and dedication, while others feed her insatiable hunger with the suffering and pain of their victims. Eldari Inheritance of Embers is the ultimate Wrath and Glory sourcebook for Eldari players and game masters alike. This expansive supplement is the perfect starting point for an entirely Eldari-focused adventure or to expand the enigmatic Xenos' role in the existing campaign. Explore the shattered ruins of Craftworld Ulkari, raid unwary void ships as daring corsairs, or even risk navigating the intricate and brutal politics of Comra itself. And yes, of course, I'm mispronouncing all of these words because I'm not all that well versed in Warhammer 40K. Eldari Inheritance of Embers is packed with details on all four of the major Eldari factions: the Asuryani, Corsairs, Harlequins, and Drukhari. Explore the history of the Eldari from their ancient galaxy-spanning empire to the comparative handful of survivors who subsist in the embers of what remains. There's dozens of new archetypes for every tier, featuring iconic troop types for all four factions. There's detailed frameworks and advice for running Eldari-focused games. Elegant and deadly Eldari equipment, weapons, and armor. Detailed NPC profiles be used as patrons or nemeses in games of Wrath and Glory, revolving around the Eldari presence in the Gilead system. You can pre-order the 160-page hardcover with PDF for an MSRP of $44.99. Or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG. Right now, it is out for the odd pricing of $21.78. You can expect the release of the hardcover in the third quarter of this year. Very nice. Very nice to see some new releases for Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory. Now, I know when I talked to my buddy T.S. Lukart, he had mentioned that there is going to be a change. There is going to be a shift in Wrath and Glory. He could not really get into a whole lot of detail about it. So I was kind of in the dark, but I sort of had the impression that there was going to be kind of a new focus on Wrath and Glory. Because, of course, we do have Imperium Maledictum. Yeah, that's one that just rolls right off the tongue. Although it is a really well done role-playing game. And it is sort of the Warhammer 40K role-playing game, kind of as a sister game to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So I like that because they share some very similar mechanics in that way too. I got to point out, it's been a while since I've seen anything from Cubicle 7 Games. I am going to have to reach out to TS because you may recall that there were some issues with the marketing person from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. It was weird. I just could not get anything cooking with them. And it was like, I wasn't even getting like news pieces and stuff. And that person's no longer with Cubicle 7 Entertainment, but I don't know if they ended up getting a marketing person or not, because I know my pal TS was sort of handling it. But I'm gonna reach out and see what's cooking, because there are some items that are either coming out or on the horizon that I really want to bring you coverage of. I really do. We've got a few people who've popped into chat that I have not said hello to. I believe we've got Edge for Life. Yes, Mr. Unpronounceable Name. Edge for Life. That's what I'm just saying. That's it. That's how I'm gonna say it. That's how I'm sticking to it. And I believe we also have Chris Lundgren is with us. So it looks like we've got a nice chat rocking and rolling tonight. Flaming Heron says that I was actually doing all right with the pronunciations. Well, funny enough, as Shaz is also hanging with the gang, welcome aboard. I think I've told you that in the past, I played Epic. And I got into it after they changed it to, I think they called it Space Marine at that point. And then it became something like Warhammer 40K Epic. But I played the Eldar. So that was my faction. I had all the factions. I had painted them and everything. But the one I played was the Eldar, and my buddy Ed played as the Imperium. Every once in a while, Elliot played. Elliot was never a big miniatures fan, and he would play the Orcs when he would play. But yeah, I had all of the various different factions, and I'll be the first to point out that, man, it was so expensive for those minis. It was ridiculous. And yes, I know, once again, they have rolled Epic out. It's got a completely different name now. And I think they rolled it back out about a year or two ago. And those minis are just so insanely priced. And they're 6mm figures. And as far as like soldiers and stuff, very, very little detail on them. But I thought it was pretty cool. And it was kind of nice to put out these like huge battles at my buddy Ed's house, because he had enough room for us to have a nice big table and everything. So Chris points out, Jeff, you did a fantastic description of the OSR last show. Love the explanation I gave. Well, it's just my definition. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it. All right, let's move on to my final news piece, because now available in print is the Paranoia Accomplice book. Or I guess I should say Paranoia the Accomplice book, because that's the exact title for it. Here's the skinny from Mongoose Publishing. Of course, the Paranoia core book is perfect, maybe even the perfectest. But you know what would make it even more perfecter? A companion book. But since this is Paranoia, it's called the Accomplice book. Inside, you'll find a bunch of rules and content for your next Paranoia mission, so your players are confused, a bit worried, and having a blast. Have you got older editions of Paranoia? You'll find instructions for using old rules with the new edition. If you like commendation points, registered mutants, and older secret societies, they are back. That old mission you kept all these years can still be run. Want to create your own missions but are unsure what to do exactly? Welcome the return of the Mission Blender, a system that picks out villains, allies, and situations typical of Paranoia. Want to drop Alpha Complex celebrities into your missions? Now you have stats for Tila O'Milly, Captain Alpha, Funbot, and an entire cast of characters. I'm going to take a guess. Funbot's probably not too fun. He's probably a murder bot of some sort. Want a more custom experience? You get a number of optional rules to customize the game. Non-competitive character creation. Ha! Spending Moxie anonymously. And for those who love their combat a bit crunchy, hit points and stat-based initiative. How about some brand new stuff? More Alpha Complex celebrities, top 5 lists, gear, prescription meds, advancing in your secret society, linking promotions to experience points, and slang troubleshooters use to communicate without getting arrested by INSEC. There's even a paranoia glossary defining terms like Code 7, Funball, public hating squares, and why we call ourselves famous game designers. Pro tip, they're sarcastic. The 112-page hardcover with PDF of Paranoia, the Accomplice book, is out now, and it does carry an MSRP of $49.99. Or you can grab just the PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29.99. Nice! Yes, we've got the new edition of Paranoia, which I think the core book is now out in print, but I had already shared news about the core book in the past, but I don't think it was available in print, at least not in the US yet. So that is out, so is the Accomplice book, and I believe the Game Master screen has also landed in stores. I would love to get a look at this. I would love to check Paranoia out. I really should reach out to Mongoose because I shared a review of the starter set for Traveler, and then that was it. I never heard from them again. I don't know if they, didn't like my style or something or what, but I am going to reach out. In fact, since I had announced that I'm not going to be covering Dungeons and Dragons releases from Wizards of the Coast, a lot of people have been reaching out to me. It's like, will you take a look at my game? It's sort of like, well, if you're not using AI generated art, yeah. Or if it doesn't look like, absolute ass, yeah, sure. I have no problem with that. But I am going to try to lock in a little stronger with some publishers that I've worked with a little bit in the past, but just haven't really done a whole lot. W. Ford says Mongoose has been putting out a lot of Traveler stuff lately. Yes. In fact, I believe the latest item, which is just out, is the updated Traveler Game Master screen. Updated for 2024. Yes. Travis Williams has joined us, as has our good friend Kevin R. Smith. So welcome. Once again, we've got a nice chat cooking here tonight. All right, so that is it for the tabletop gaming news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG with the last 3 news pieces. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, then you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation, as did Agile Monk very recently. And it was not a small donation that Agile Monk made. So thank you kindly. I know there are quite a few of you out there who do utilize the banner ads over at thegaminggang.com and or visit paypal.me/thegaminggang from time to time. And it is all greatly appreciated. It really, really is. I know we've got some new folks who have been tuning into the Dispatch lately, probably not overly familiar with the Gaming Gang. They may not have even gone and visited the website. For shame. Because there's loads of stuff on the website. Especially if you catch a news piece on a show and you're like, what the hell was that company again? Every morning following the previous evening's episode, I have news pieces that pop up and they have all the links to everything that you need. So there is that. I should also mention today is the final day of the New Year New Game sale over at Drive-Thru RPG. You have a few hours left to go, and I think we won't see another big sale over at Drive-Thru RPG and some of the affiliated sites until I think they have the GM's Day sale. Is going to be the next one. And I want to say, I think that is in March. Thereabouts. All right. So, and it, as I bump the mic, if you're wondering, yes, I actually did take a painkiller tonight prior to the show. I actually took one of the leftover pills I had from the triple bypass. And I'm telling you, I think it's a damaged nerve. I think that's what it is, because these painkillers, I took the Tylenol with the codeine. Now I took this, and not today. I'm just saying I tried the Tylenol with codeine. Now today I'm trying it takes the edge off a little bit, but it's still like, Bjorn is with us. Welcome aboard. Let's see who else we've had pop into chat. Ichiban, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And I think that would be everybody. If I've missed anyone in chat to say hello to, I do apologize. Howdy, y'all. All right. If there is anything that you'd like to discuss tonight, toss it out there in chat. Otherwise, I'll kind of follow up a little more, kind of get into a little more detail about what I'm looking to do with some of the other publishers out there that maybe I haven't been all that tight with as of late. So let's see. Flaming Heron says, "Oh, you just reminded me, Jeff. I meant to say on the last video, but unfortunately I can't get the Discworld bundle on Humble because apparently it's not available in our region." Oh yeah, that's right. I think it's only available in the US. Wow. I forgot about that. Let's see. Chris Lundgren asks if I have ever played the out-of-print board game called Baseball by the Numbers. I have not. I have played, talking about baseball board games, I have played Sherco Baseball, Status Pro Baseball, that's the one that was from Avalon Hill back in the day, where you could actually create your own cards. So that was pretty cool. Although you use these fast action cards, you weren't rolling dice and stuff like that, but I still have a soft spot for that game. In fact, I can tell you a little story about that game in just a moment. Stratomatic, of course, probably my favorite, playing the advanced game with Stratomatic. I have played APBA or APBA, as some people refer to it. Pursue the Pennant. Let's see, what was the other one that was kind of, I think it was Pursue the Pennant, got sold to somebody and they changed the name of it. I had played that. I think if I remember right, Pursue the Pennant it had a box. So the box top you took and you had all of these outfields for Major League Baseball. So you had all of the baseball fields, stadiums, whatever. And you would actually put it in the box. And then you had, the diamond, and you would just roll your dice there. It was kind of cool. It had a nice, cool look to it. And it was similar in some ways to Stratomatic baseball because you had the lefty-righty splits, things like that. I do not have an opportunity to spend much time playing baseball board games as much as I used to. Now, of course, the Out of the Park baseball for a computer is fantastic. It is excellent. It is probably the best PC baseball game out there. Micro League Baseball, Kabuki Kid mentions. Yes. Yes, I had Micro League Baseball. If we talk about computer baseball games, I've had all of those too because I love baseball. It's my absolute favorite. Kabuki Kid says they liked Micro League on the Commodore 64. I actually went and bought a computer. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was, I forget. But it was, it had like really good graphics for the day. And I actually bought it used from somebody so that I could play Micro League Baseball. What was really good was Tony La Russa Baseball. The graphics were pretty good. That was a game that I just played the hell out of. And it also had lefty-righty splits. Because in my opinion, you got to have lefty-righty splits. Also got to point out, I really liked Sherco Baseball. In fact, I had pneumonia when I was a junior in high school, and I had to take 3 weeks off from school. And baseball season had just started. I had just gotten Sherco Baseball. I had sent away for it. And I just played that like all day long. And of course, keep score. I had my, score sheets and everything else. And the cool thing about that was it was another game that you could do all the stats yourself. All you needed to have was the, baseball almanac of that year, or even if you had the baseball encyclopedia, which of course I have a couple of copies of, and you could go through and it would take you maybe an hour tops to calculate all the player stats because they were pretty abstract. So like if with your baseball, like the batting average, it was like AAA, AA, A. Those were all 300 and above. If I remember right, I think if the batter had hit 400 or above, it was AAA. And then you would also have a number because you only rolled 2 6-sided dice, and you took the lowest number, and that was your tens digit, and then your other die. So if you rolled a 3 and a 6, it'd be 36. If you rolled a 4 and a 1, it was a 14. So then there was a way to calculate their home run power. It was actually really cool. I think you can still buy it. And one of the cool things was the park would be a grid. So all of the stadiums had been mapped out for this grid. And then you would have players and you would actually place your fielders. So if it was a fly ball, it'd say, there was a book that you would roll dice. And if it was a hit, you rolled on one thing. If it wasn't, you rolled on the other table. And then it would tell you, like, fly ball to wherever or what have you. And it was kind of funny because you would have hits drop in if the fielders were out of position or they didn't have a strong enough arm to throw the runner out at first, stuff like that. It was actually a very cool game. It was not expensive. It was not expensive at all. Kabuki Kid says they remembered Tommy Lasorda baseball on the Genesis. I think I played it. Chris Lundgren mentions Bo Jackson baseball. I don't remember playing that. So Kabuki Kid says, where's Todd McFarlane? Remember in your interview with him, he loved these baseball sim games? You know, it's funny, when we were at Comic-Con last year, I tried to meet up with him because Todd McFarlane had gotten into historical board games. So I wanted to say hi to him because it was funny the year at Comic-Con. This was before I did the interview with him. If you're relatively new to the show, this will be a new story to you. So we're standing in line to get a couple of books signed. My brother and my brother's friend, David. And Todd McFarlane had just kind of shown up. He wasn't really scheduled to sign. Well, I take that back. He was scheduled to sign, but he needed a wristband because stuff at San Diego Comic-Con, for the most part, you can't just walk up and do it. So anyway, we walked over there because my brother and David thought that maybe they could get him to sign these books without having the wristbands, which I was like, no, that ain't going to happen. But he had showed up early, so he was actually in this other section of the Image Comics exhibit area, and he was just signing stuff. So my brother had given me a book to have him sign, and we're standing there, and I'm first, then David, and then my brother Greg. And it gets to me, and I hand it to Todd McFarlane. I said, hi, Mr. McFarlane. And I had interviewed him about 2 or 3 years before. They were doing kind of a knockoff of Legos. They were building blocks, but it was The Walking Dead. And I said, hey, Mr. McFarlane. I said, you probably don't remember me. I said, I interviewed you when you did the release for The Walking Dead, whatever it was called. And he looks up and he's like, I know you. He's like, the gaming gang. I was like, and my brother and my brother's friend David were like, holy shit, he knows you. It's like, but yeah, I was trying to reach out to maybe do an interview with him at Comic-Con. Never got anything back, because of course you got to go through his, like marketing person or what have you. So, but yeah, that was kind of funny. But he had become a big historical board gamer, and that's why he would watch the channel. He watched a lot of my coverage of like GMT stuff. I thought, okay, the Worthington Publishing stuff. So that was pretty wild. So I was going to tell you a quick Status Pro baseball story. So we're talking probably about 1983, 84. We all kick in. So it's Elliot, Scott Weigel, who I just mentioned on yesterday's show, who I pointed out, pops in, shows up from time to time in chat. Our friend Tim Phelan, who is still a gamer as well. He still lives in the Chicago area. And Elliot's brother, Thomas, who was in his 20s, and his friend, because we were all playing Status Pro Baseball. So we all kicked in to get the cards for that season. So everybody, you know, we did drafts and stuff. So everybody had their teams. And Elliot's brother, Thomas, his nickname is Lucky. For about the same reason that you would call a person who was who was overweight or obese, whatever, you'd call them tiny. So anyway, his team was scheduled to play his friend Russell. That was the guy's name. And it was a 3-game series, and Russell's team swept him. And it was like 8th and 9th inning comebacks to win. And then Lucky then proceeded to take his cards and rip them in half for his entire team. Because the cards were about yay big. They weren't huge. They were about yay big. Just ripped them all in half. It was like, seriously? It's like, all right, okie doke. Yeah. So there's some talk about Fred Savage. That Fred Savage was playing a baseball game in The Princess Bride. Doesn't remember what the title of it was. Aha. Chris Lundgren asks if I have ever been to HMGS conventions like Historicon. I have not. Gotta remember, I don't really make any money doing this. Okay, I make a little bit. You know, actually, I'm more than happy to kind of tell you what I make doing this. So when I do conventions, it's just like this year, I don't think I'm going to do San Diego Comic-Con. Now, I'm sure there won't be any sort of strike like last year, which just killed it. I mean, it was like... I mean, I still had a good time, but I mainly had a good time because I was hanging out with my best friend Elliot and David and my brother. And that was pretty much the reason why I enjoyed myself. It wasn't the convention. I thought the convention itself was pretty lame. Hardly any parties going on, which usually it's like we have so many parties we're invited to. It's kind of like, how are we going to schedule this out? So this year, I'm sort of like, I don't really think I can afford to do San Diego Comic-Con because I have to do Gen Con. That is my convention. I do Gen Con every year. I love that convention. It's my absolute favorite. But even there was talk of going to GaryCon, which now is sold out. And then it was... Elliot and I were talking about going to the Founders and Legends, which is the week before, also in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Hadn't heard anything back from Troll Lord Games until today. I can kind of talk about that a little bit. But that is sort of like, wow. What we spent to go to GaryCon last year with the hotel and food and everything, I mean, that was almost as much as I spent going to San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con. It's like, holy cow. Kabuki Kid says, yeah, Todd McFarlane is a big deal. Even if just in the toy figure world, he revolutionized toy figures. He certainly did. And I used to pick up a lot of the McFarlane toy stuff. Had loads and loads of those. I had the historical horror figures. Like there was Elizabeth Bathory. She was one of the figures. I had those. I had Janis Joplin. I didn't tend to pick up figures for like comics and stuff like that. I picked up some of his oddball stuff or kind of off the wall stuff. So I had Janis Joplin, I had Jimi Hendrix, I had the Elvis one that they came out with, even though I'm really not an Elvis fan. Char Asnable is with us again. Welcome. Thanks for popping on in to join us tonight. So, Char says they're going to GaryCon this year. It's their first one. They don't usually attend cons, but they felt like they should for this one. Yeah, Elliot and I were really looking into doing it, and I had reached out to my contact from Trollord Games because they're very tight with Luke Gygax, Luke Gygax is the guy who's pretty much behind GaryCon. And I had reached out asking if my contact thought it would be a good idea to ask Luke Gygax if it'd be possible for Elliot and I to get a couple of press passes, which they really don't do press passes. Now, as far as I understand, we could pay like $20 a day or something and be able to hang out, but then you can't play anything. You can't sign up for any of the events, anything like that. Which, to me, it would be kind of pointless. Now, I might go to, what the hell? It's the miniatures convention they do outside Chicago. And it's pretty popular. It's pretty well attended. And they've got a thing where if you're press, you can go, you don't need to pay anything. But then again, you cannot take part in any of the events. Which to me is kind of like, I think it's called Necron, if I remember right. That might be it. So anyway, I had reached out to my contact at Trollord Games, never heard anything back. So then Elliot and I were talking about GaryCon again because Elliot really wants to go. And I saw that it was sold out. So Elliot got back to me and he said, hey, I see that they still got tickets for, now this was about a week and a half ago, for the Founders and Legends. And it's celebrating, the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons and that. He's like, oh, that should be pretty cool. And I was like, okay. So you're looking at, I think, if I remember correctly, last year, the ticket for GaryCon was $100. And then we just stayed at a motel that was a 20-minute drive from the resort, which used to be the Playboy Resort. Because I remember going to the Playboy Resort when it was the Playboy Resort. So anyway, just the motel was like another $500 and some. So going to GaryCon for the 4 days ended up running me with food and, we go out and have some adult beverages and stuff. Ended up running me like $500, which to me is kind of crazy because it's 90 minutes away and we stayed at a motel. It's not like we were staying at Embassy Suites or something like that. So I thought if we could save the $100 each, that would help. Never heard anything back. So then I sent another email, and you know me, I'm transparent. I tell you what's going on. I'm not here to hide anything. I'm not here to make myself look good or anything like that. I tell you, what's going on. So anyway, I had reached out to my contact again. So essentially, you might remember the interview I did with the Chenault brothers, Luke Gygax, and Chuck Cumbo from Trollord Games. After that video, I had sent Chuck, that's my contact at Troll Lord, I had sent him an email, and that was when I first broached the topic of, hey, do you think Luke would maybe be able to give me a couple of press passes for GaryCon? And essentially what we're looking to be able to do is go and actually play in some of the events. Although last year we went and we mainly hung out at the motel playing games. So, but we went and hung out, and we went and got the beer for what was it, hour and a half if you had the beer cup, which I have right here. This cup was like $20 or $25. And then I want to say it was Friday and Saturday for like an hour and a half. It was, free beer. And we made sure we got our $20 worth of beer. I'll tell you that much. So anyway, I reached out to Chuck, didn't hear anything back. Then I reached out to Chuck because one thing we had talked about was the Kickstarter for the Gary Gygax book. I think it's The Hermit, if I remember correctly. We talked about that, and we talked about how they had made a deal with the the hell are they? They're in charge of Gary Gygax's materials, I guess we'll say, his work. So it's not exactly executors. But anyway, they had made a deal where they were trying to tell them, hey, you know what? We can make money for the estate by re-releasing stuff that Gygax had released, and there's also a lot of stuff that's never seen the light of day. And that's what this Kickstarter was. This is a few months ago, was to get things rolling and to show these people that, hey, you know what? There is value to Gary Gygax's work, and they would like to be able to release it through Troll Lord Games. Trustees, I think that's right. I think Kevin R. Smith is right. I think they're considered to be trustees of the estate. So anyway, that was supposed to come out in November, the physical books. So I had reached out to see if, I could share a copy with the audience, because I'm really interested. I like Castles and Crusades. I think Castles and Crusades is very cool. That is one of the role-playing games that I would look to run if I were going to run kind of an OSR fantasy campaign. That would be a system that's in the running. Never heard anything back. And then I emailed again. It's about a month and a half ago about maybe talking to Luke Gygax about GaryCon. Never heard anything back. And then about a week ago, I sent an email asking about seeing that GaryCon sold out, asking if I should, because I figured these guys are pals with Luke Gygax. They're tight with Luke Gygax. I just wanted somebody to say, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Go ahead. Or no, I wouldn't do that, because I just don't want to look like an ass clown. So anyway, I sent the email, never heard anything back. So on X, I had contacted the Troll Lord Games account, which is actually one of the Schnaltz. I think it's Davis who handles that. And he said, oh, well, Chuck had COVID. It was pretty bad. But yeah, he's fine. So I'm thinking, well, why isn't he ever getting back to me? So I sent him an email today, and I essentially said, well, I've tried to contact you multiple times about a variety of things. regarding Troll Lord Games and other stuff, and I've never heard anything back. So my assumption has to be that you don't have any interest in working with the gaming gang any longer. So I was like, hopefully you're feeling well and all the best in the future. And within 5 minutes, I got an email back like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, okay. Now I haven't responded to it, but it was kind of like, oh no, that's not the case. We really want to work with you and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, I mean, I get it, you know, if you were sick, but I'm pretty sure you hadn't been sick for like 4 or 5 months. So anyway, so we are trying to go to the Founders and Legends, but I don't know. Once again, it's not something that if we have to buy the passes, it's probably not something that I'm going to do. So I think somebody just asked something here. Oh, Char says if I go to GaryCon, he'll run a game for me. Oh, that's cool. That's pretty nice. Yeah, the funny thing is, Elliot and I ended up just kind of open gaming quite a bit with a lot of stuff. We did play, well, I played a couple of games. I played one Mutant Crawl Classics game, and then the other was like an introduction to Castles and Crusades. So, you know, that was pretty much it. We were scheduled for something else, and then that got canceled. And then we got a bunch of snow. I mean, we got like hammered with snow for a couple of days. So I was like, holy cow. So, and the way that the resort is set up is if you're not staying at the resort, you have to park relatively remotely and then walk, and it's all uphill. So we weren't expecting a bunch of snow. So we had sneakers. So we're like trying to make our way up through this snow and ice and everything. It's pretty wacky. Pretty wacky. So I gotta be honest, I don't know if I'm going to be going up there. But as far as like what I actually make from the gaming gang, next Tuesday, I'll tell you. I'll give you a breakdown, and you'll probably sit there and think, are you out of your mind? Why do you do this? So there was a little talk about the Dungeons and Dragons channel on Freevee, asking if people had seen that. I have not. Got to remember, it's not like I have, oh, now I've got this hatred for Dungeons and Dragons or anything. No, it's just I am not going to play Wizards of the Coast's game. In more ways than one. So Kevin R. Smith says they should mention that their current group are all members of the old Adventurers Guild from when that was a thing. He is the token Gen Xer in the room. Fleming Huron says, you mean you aren't rich, Jeff? I am. In personality. Just like, funny enough, people think I'm like a real nice guy. That's not necessarily the case. I like to tell people I am a good guy. I am not necessarily a nice guy. Because I am not the sort of person who allows people to walk over. It's just not my thing. And I have absolutely no problem telling people where they can get off. But having said that, I also try to do the right thing. And I do my best to take other people into the equation. I'm not like, oh, you know, it's all about me. Flaming Red says, get off my lawn. Char says, you just sound like a nice guy. Yes, with my voice for silent movies. Although, once again, I did tweak the audio. I don't know how it sounds for you guys. I am always trying to EQ the audio for this because, for one, I definitely am trying to get more of a radio sound to it. But I do know that there is a bit too much lower frequencies, too much kind of bass. So I try to cut that a little bit. Oh, great. Roll for combats here. Well, I guess I'm going to wrap things up, everybody. Good to see you, Steven. One of these days, send me an email. We'll schedule something. You would ask me to be on the show again. We'll talk OSR. I just was talking. I know you probably didn't catch last night's show, but I did talk a little bit about the OSR and how I define it, which is different than everybody else. And just so Stephen knows, I don't know if Stephen saw my announcement that I am no longer going to provide any coverage for Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons releases from Wizards of the Coast. Just so you know, Stephen, if you didn't catch this, that does not apply to third-party publishers. So, not that you probably care, but just so you know. Because actually, someone from Adventure Week Games had reached out and they said, I just want to double check. Are we talking all D&D stuff? And I was like, no. So, Stephen says they saw that and talked about that a bit. Really? What, on your show? Why would you talk about me on your show? I'm sure you got better things to do. I care. Bjorn asks, would I say Castles and Crusades is OSR? Oh, so we're going to get back into that again. Are you guys tired of that discussion? Do Groyards think Castles and Crusades is OSR? The answer to that would be no. Because Castles and Crusades shares far too much DNA with Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition 3.5. So, and remember, if it's past Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, then it's not OSR, right? Remember, that's like, how like the diehards look at it. Myself personally, yes, I think Castles and Crusades is OSR. In my opinion, I think it is part of an old school renaissance. Got to remember too, Castles and Crusades has been around for quite a long time. It came out in the early 2000s, if I remember correctly. So another really cool aspect of Castles and Crusades is it's relatively easy to convert old modules on the fly to Castles and Crusades. So you can take a classic AD&D adventure and convert it relatively easily to Castles and Crusades. I personally think it's a really good system. Presentation is a little scattered, and I know there are also some like errors in the various different volumes that have been reprinted umpteen times, and they have not been changed. So I don't know why that's the case, but Gary Gygax did work for Troll Lord Games, so they've got some of that. In fact, once again, fingers crossed, at some point in time, maybe I'll get a chance to bring coverage of The Hermit to you because it'll look pretty cool. Bjorn says if CNC, Castles and Crusades, is close to 3rd edition or 3.5, I'm even more interested in giving it a look and glad I picked a version up. So I should mention that usually you can find the player's book in PDF for free. Now, it is not the most current edition, or I shouldn't say edition, it's print run, because the game itself really hasn't changed. It's been tweaked a little bit here and there, and as an example, in the player's handbook, the latest print runs have included the higher level adventurers. So off the top of my head, and I did not have these print runs, so I don't know for sure, but I do believe at some point the player's handbook went to like level 12 for the characters, and then like levels 13 through, I want to say 24, 25 were in the Castle Keeper's Guide, because the game master is called the Castle Keeper. Well, now in this print run, and I think the one right before that, now it's all in the player's book. So something else to kind of keep in mind is the player's book is all the rules. So all of the rules you need are in that player's book. There's also the monster book, Monsters and Treasure. The Castle Keeper's Guide is not required. So unlike Dungeons and Dragons and many other role-playing games that have a trio of core books, the Castle Keeper's Guide is all optional. It's all variant rules and advice on running games, and it's all really good content. I really like it quite a bit. Now, for some people, it might be a little too conversational for their liking, because reading the rules and everything, it's as if you're having a conversation with somebody, as opposed to it being very technical writing, which is fine. Doesn't bother me at all. So there's a little bit of info about Castles and Crusades. Yeah, Kabuki Kid says, yes, just Wizbro is what's now verboten. All right, just kind of going through chat here. If anybody's got some questions they tossed out, and then we'll get to wrapping up. Chris Lundgren also says, I want Mutant Crawl Classics to get more love. I played Dungeon Crawl Classics, loved it. Now eager to play Mutant Crawl Classics. Wish more people would talk about it. What do I think of Mutant Crawl Classics? Well, you can check out my review. You can certainly give that a peek. I do not like it as much as Dungeon Crawl Classics. And I think my biggest issue with it, and it's funny because when I went to GaryCon, I actually was standing talking to the designer of Mutant Crawl Classics. And he didn't make it apparent who he was. We're just chatting and that. He started talking about Mutant Crawl Classics. And I said, oh, yeah, I've reviewed that. And he said, yeah, I know you have. I think I gave like a 7 out of 10 because I don't think it's as fleshed out as Dungeon Crawl Classics. For one, the page count is far less than Dungeon Crawl Classics. Do I like Mutant Crawl Classics just as a whole? Yeah. Yeah, I like it. In fact, I just mentioned I played that at GaryCon. It was not the designer who ran it, because I kind of got the impression the designer wasn't overly thrilled with me. But once again, I share my honest opinion of stuff when I do reviews. Gruesome Gaming Group asks, isn't a new Castles and Crusades player book just around the corner? I think it's just a new print run with a new cover. Now, the covers I really like are the homage to the AD&D books, especially the Monster and Treasure book. I think is really, really well done. Kabuki Kid says that they joke that Pathfinder is just simply D&D 3.5, I think it was. I just saw flash on past. Oh, 3.75. Yes. A lot of people have said that. A lot of people said first edition Pathfinder is essentially D&D 3.75. Second edition, completely different beast. It really now separates itself from D&D quite a bit. All right, real quick running through here. Kevin King says they ran Hive of the Overmind in a Fallen Star for all, both for Mutant Crawl Classics recently. Said to their surprise, the latter was by far their favorite. Yeah, I will mention that Mutant Crawl Classics does not get the same kind of love as Dungeon Crawl Classics from Goodman Games itself. So I tend to see more stuff advertised for Mutant Crawl Classics on the Goodman Games website that's third party as opposed to coming directly from Goodman Games. So Chris says they agree with me in many ways on Mutant Crawl Classics. But the modules are pretty cool and think Mutant Crawl Classics is good but could use an update. I just personally think it could be fleshed out more. I mean, it does seem to be a little bit bare bones in some ways. And in other ways, it almost feels like it's beholden to Dungeon Crawl Classics in ways that it really doesn't necessarily have to be. So like DCC has all the various tables for spell effects. And that's one of the things I like, although I think it gets a little out of hand. Because it's like, holy shit. It's like 150 pages devoted to spells and all the tables and stuff like that. But I think Spellburn's really cool. And I love the fact that, in my opinion, I think Dungeon Crawl Classics does one of the best jobs of simulating sword and sorcery magic. Magic that you would see from, say, a Conan the Barbarian story or a Fafhrd and Grey Mouser story, where magic is wild, it's rather uncontrollable. So even the lowest level magic users, if they want to spell burn, they can blast out some really powerful spells, especially if they roll like a 20. So Kabuki Kid says Hyperborea looks really cool. They don't own it, but they always had it on their want list. I like it. I don't think that would be my go-to for an old school Renaissance role-playing game because it goes and starts using those matrices, which I was never a fan of way back in the day. Still not necessarily a fan. What I think Hyperborea does really well is it provides a lot of subclasses for the various different character classes. I think it does that really, really nicely. And it's got a lot of variety to it. But having to use a combat matrix, depending on the character class, I've never been that big of a fan. DM Tales is with us. Good to see you. Said they're the odd person who likes Mutant Crawl Classics more than Dungeon Crawl Classics, but it's probably because they've got a soft cover DCC book and it's a rough reading experience. Yeah, I've got a soft cover too, and I'll be the first one to say that I don't think that would hold up all too well to a lot of repeated use at the game table. So I, of course, have the PDF also. Chris Lundgren says, took a year to find one judge to run Mutant Crawl Classics in their area, hoping to play it soon, but played Dungeon Crawl Classics. First time last Saturday, had a blast. It was a 0 level funnel. So much fun. Yeah, the funnels are pretty fun. I know Harley Stroh's done a couple of really good funnels. And there's another designer who does a lot of Dungeon Crawl Classic stuff, Michael Curtis. They tend to do really good adventures too. Kabuki Kid says they don't mind the combat matrices, but they also still tolerate combat result tables too. Yeah, those are kind of boring. That's just something from the past for wargaming that's sort of like, All righty. So that is it for this time out. Another hour and a half show. Hopefully everybody had a good time hanging out tonight. Of course, if you were watching live, thank you. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you. Because you're not only keeping me company, you're keeping each other company too. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the over 1,600 videos on the Gaming Gang channel. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because not only will you be notified when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube, you'll also find out when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming review of Deadlands: The Weird West Companion from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. That's right. Stay tuned. A lot of videos hitting later on this week and then into next week. And of course, if you missed it, Sunday I will kick off Chaosium Inc. Week here on the Gaming Gang, as I will be bringing you first looks into 9 different Chaosium Inc. books for both RuneQuest and Call of Cthulhu. So hopefully you'll tune in for those as well. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a great weekend. Those of you who are facing some downright nasty weather, please be careful out there. Most things aren't that important that you got to go get if it means driving through a blizzard or minus 20 degrees. So stock up out there. All right, I will be back on Tuesday. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.